Have you ever wondered how people coped with food shortages during the most devastating war in human history? Imagine a world at war, where countries spanning the globe are entangled in conflict. Now picture the impact on food supplies, the scarcity, the rationing. During World War II, this was the stark reality. The world faced a challenge in feeding its populace like never before. Let's dive into the history and understand the journey of survival during World War II. As World War II broke out, nations braced themselves for the inevitable, a food crisis. The onset of the war disrupted normal routines and economies. The once bountiful markets began to dwindle as resources were redirected towards the war effort. Ships that once carried food, now transported troops and ammunition. Farms that once flourished were left untended as farmers were called to the front lines. The world's pantry was rapidly emptying, and the specter of hunger loomed large. In response to this impending crisis, governments across the globe introduced an unprecedented measure: rationing. The concept was simple yet effective. It was designed to prevent panic buying and hoarding, ensuring everyone got a fair share of the limited supplies. Each family was issued a ration book, dictating the amount of food they could purchase. It was a system that transcended social class and wealth, where everyone, from the factory worker to the millionaire, was given an equal share. This was not just about managing resources, it was about maintaining morale. Governments understood that a well-fed population was critical for the war effort. They knew that hunger could lead to unrest, and unrest could lead to defeat. So, they took control of the food supply, turning everyday grocery shopping into a carefully managed operation, and thus, began an era of rationing, a test of survival and adaptability. The implementation of food rationing was a colossal task, one that required meticulous planning and execution. Imagine a nation suddenly needing to drastically change its consumption habits, all while facing the threats and uncertainties of a global war. This was the reality during the Second World War. In order to fairly distribute food and other vital resources, the government had to devise a system of rationing. This led to the creation of the ration books. Each person received a book filled with coupons which represented a certain amount of a specific good they could purchase within a given time period. From sugar to meat, to gasoline and clothing, everything was rationed. These ration books became a new form of currency, dictating what and how much each person could buy. The government played a significant role in implementing and managing this rationing system. They had to ensure that everyone received their ration books, and they had to regulate and monitor the distribution of goods. This was no small feat. It required stringent laws, careful organization, and a massive public education campaign to inform the public about the new system and how to use their ration books. Rationing was received with mixed reactions from the public. Some saw it as a necessary measure, a way to ensure everyone had access to essential goods during a time of war. Others, however, viewed it as an infringement on their personal freedoms, a governmental overreach into their daily lives. Despite the varied reactions, most understood the importance of rationing and complied with the new system. It was a time of national unity, where personal sacrifices were made for the greater good of the country. The implementation of rationing affected every aspect of daily life. It changed the way people shopped, cooked, ate, and even dressed. It was a massive undertaking, and its effects were felt by every single person in the country. Rationing was not just a policy, it was a lifestyle that required substantial adjustment. Living under rationing was a challenge, but it also brought out the best in people. Now let's dive into the daily life under rationing. You might be wondering what exactly was rationed. Well, the list was long and varied, including everything from meat, butter, and cheese to sugar, coffee, and canned goods. Even bread, which was a staple in every household, was rationed. This rationing was not just a minor inconvenience. It fundamentally altered the way people ate. Many of the foods that were once taken for granted suddenly became precious commodities. People had to be creative and resourceful, adapting their diets to make the most of what they had. But even with rationing, there was a sense of fairness. Everyone received the same amount of rationed goods regardless of their social status or wealth. This was a far cry from the pre-war years, when the rich could afford to eat whatever they liked, while the poor often went hungry. So how did people adapt? Well, they turned to alternatives. For instance, rabbit and poultry became more popular as they were not subject to rationing. Fish, too, was a common substitute for meat. Then there was the rise of the victory garden. These were small vegetable patches that people cultivated in their backyards or even on rooftops and balconies. It was a way for citizens to contribute to the war effort by growing their own food and reducing the pressure on public supplies. And it worked. By the end of the war, it's estimated that nearly 1/3 of all vegetables consumed in the country came from victory gardens. But beyond the practical benefits, these gardens had a psychological impact too. They gave people a sense of control in a time of uncertainty and fear. They were a symbol of resilience and self-sufficiency, a testament to the human spirit's ability to adapt and thrive even in the harshest of conditions. And then there was the community spirit. Neighbors would share their surplus produce, exchanging carrots for cabbages or beans for beets. This wasn't just about survival, it was about solidarity. People were in it together, supporting each other through the toughest of times. Rationing also led to an increased focus on nutrition. With limited resources, it was more important than ever to eat a balanced diet. This led to the government issuing guides on how to use rationed foods to get the necessary vitamins and minerals. These guides were not just practical, they were educational, teaching people about the importance of good nutrition for health and well-being. Despite the hardships, rationing fostered a sense of unity and resilience among people. It was a time of challenge and change, but it was also a time of innovation, creativity, and community. It showed that even in the face of adversity, people can come together, adapt, and find ways to not just survive, but thrive. With the end of World War II came the end of rationing, but its impact was long-lasting. When peace was declared, the world breathed a collective sigh of relief. The guns fell silent, and slowly but surely, the rationing measures that had governed daily life began to ease. The joy was palpable. People celebrated by indulging in the simple pleasures that had been denied to them for so long. A piece of chocolate, a cup of real coffee, a fresh orange. These everyday items became symbols of a brighter, more prosperous future. But while rationing ended, it left an indelible mark on society and the food industry. It had forced people to be inventive, to make do with less, and to appreciate the value of every morsel. This resourcefulness didn't disappear overnight. It shaped the way people thought about food, waste, and sustainability. Many of the recipes and techniques developed during rationing are still used today, a testament to the resilience and ingenuity of the human spirit. The food industry, too, was forever changed. Manufacturers who had been forced to adapt during the war years continued to innovate, leading to the development of new products and the expansion of the convenience food market. Moreover, the global connections forged during the war influenced culinary tastes, introducing new flavors and dishes to the public. Even as rationing ended, its echoes were felt for years to come. World War II and the era of rationing left an indelible mark on history. As we've seen, this was a time when governments and civilians alike had to adapt to a new way of life. The introduction of rationing, initially met with skepticism and resistance, soon became a necessary part of survival. The system was not without its challenges, but it was implemented effectively and efficiently, ensuring that everyone had access to the food and supplies they needed. Living under rationing was a unique experience, to say the least. It was a time of sacrifice and innovation, as households had to stretch their limited resources and find creative ways to make do with what they had. People learned to appreciate the value of food and the efforts that went into producing it. The end of rationing, while a cause for celebration, also marked the end of an era. It was a return to normalcy, but it also meant saying goodbye to a system that, for all its faults, had brought communities together in a shared struggle. The lasting impact of this era is still felt today. It has shaped our understanding of food security and the importance of sustainable living. It serves as a reminder of what can be achieved when we work together for the greater good. As we remember this period of history, we are reminded of humanity's resilience and adaptability in the face of adversity.